Winter had gripped the city with an unforgiving chill. Gray skyscrapers loomed like silent sentinels under a leaden sky, their cold facades mirroring the icy streets below. Pedestrians hurried past, their breath forming ghostly clouds, their gazes fixed on the ground as if to avoid the gloom that seemed to seep from every corner. Amid this frozen bustle, Sophia Carter moved purposefully, her coat pulled tight against the wind. She wasn't just braving the cold. She was confronting a world that often made people like her invisible. At 28, Sophia had spent 5 years as a secretary at one of the city's top financial firms, a fortress of power and prestige. For most, it was a dream job. But for Sophia, it was a daily battlefield where respect was as elusive as the warmth of the sun in winter. The cold indifference of her workplace mirrored the weather outside. Every interaction felt calculated, every smile hollow. Yet, Sophia kept her head high, carrying the quiet strength of someone who had faced challenges far greater than the ones imposed by her elegantly dressed colleagues. Sophia's life wasn't just about enduring the grind of her demanding job. Beyond the walls of her office, she had a far greater responsibility. Her mother, Amelia, her anchor and guiding light, was battling a chronic illness that required constant care. Every dollar Sophia earned was a thread holding their fragile world together. The sacrifices she made to balance her work and her mother's care were immeasurable, yet she bore them without complaint. To her, this struggle was proof of her resilience, though it often felt like the world was blind to her efforts. But things were about to change. An unexpected invitation to the company's exclusive year-end party had landed on Sophia's desk, wrapped in an air of mystery and foreboding. This wasn't just an invitation. It was a challenge, a test she hadn't asked for but couldn't ignore. What lay behind the ornate gold lettering on the envelope? Was this an olive branch or a trap carefully set by her calculating boss, Logan Blake, a man whose sharp words and colder actions had defined much of Sophia's professional life? The stakes of the invitation were higher than they seemed. For Sophia, this wasn't about attending a party. It was about confronting her worth in a world that constantly sought to diminish it. Little did she know, her decision to accept would set off a chain of events that would reveal hidden truths, challenge the foundations of power, and redefine her place in the world. If you're drawn to stories of resilience, integrity, and transformation, this journey is one you won't want to miss. Sophia's path is not just hers alone. It's a reflection of the quiet strength we all carry in our lives. Stick around as we uncover the extraordinary from the ordinary and reveal how one cold winter night could ignite a fire that changes everything. Stay tuned, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that inspire and remind us of the power we hold within. Sophia sat at her modest desk, the soft glow of her computer screen lighting up her determined face. The atmosphere of the office was as icy as the winter wind outside. Conversations about vacation homes and luxury cars hummed around her, a stark contrast to the financial juggling she endured just to keep her mother's medication stocked. She was used to this world of polished facades, where people like her were invisible unless a task needed to be done. But today, something broke the monotony, a cream-colored envelope with her name embossed in gold. She stared at it for a long moment, hesitant to open it. Her name, written so formally, seemed out of place amidst the stacks of reports and spreadsheets cluttering her desk. With trembling fingers, she tore the envelope open. The contents revealed an invitation to the company's exclusive year-end gala, a dazzling event hosted in the city's most luxurious venue. Only the elite of the firm ever attended this event. Why her? The question rattled around her mind as she scanned the intricately designed card. For years, Sophia had been overlooked, ignored, or, worse, assigned tasks that were far beyond her role, all while enduring the dismissive attitude of her boss, Logan Blake. Logan was a man who prided himself on his ability to command a room with little more than a glance, his every word laced with authority. For him, power was not just something to wield, it was something to flaunt. The thought of him including her in this event didn't sit right. Sophia's instincts told her this wasn't a gesture of goodwill. Logan had a history of using people as pawns in his games of influence. She could already picture his condescending smirk as she walked into the glittering room, surrounded by people who would see her as an intruder. Yet, There was another voice in her mind, quieter but resolute, urging her not to let fear dictate her decisions. What's this? Carla, Sophia's closest friend and the only ally she had in the office, leaned over her desk. Carla's warm smile and bright demeanor had been Sophia's lifeline during countless difficult days. It's an invitation to the gala, Sophia replied, her voice tinged with suspicion. Carla's brows knitted together. Logan sent you that? That doesn't make sense. He barely acknowledges you exist. Exactly, Sophia said, her voice hardening. It feels like a setup. Carla studied her friend's face, then placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Sophia, don't let him win. If you don't go, it's like admitting you don't belong. But if you go, go with your head held high. Show them who you really are. That night, as Sophia lay awake in her modest apartment, she clutched the invitation like a talisman. Her mother's soft breathing filled the room, a steady reminder of why she endured so much. Logan's intentions were clear, but Carla was right. If she declined, she would confirm the narrative he had likely already written about her. But if she accepted, she would walk into that gala as more than just a secretary. She would walk in as Sophia Carter, a woman who refused to be defined by anyone else's expectations. The next morning, Sophia made her decision. She would attend the gala, not as a victim of Logan's schemes, but as a woman of quiet strength. Her first challenge was finding something to wear. Luxury and glamour weren't part of her world. Her wardrobe was practical and modest. She would need help, and she knew exactly who to turn to. After work, Carla whisked Sophia away to a boutique she knew well, a hidden gem where elegance didn't come with a hefty price tag. Carla was a whirlwind of energy, pulling dresses from racks and holding them up with an appraising eye. Try this one, Carla said, handing over a deep emerald gown with simple yet striking lines. Sophia hesitated as she slipped into the fitting room. She had never worn anything so refined before. As she looked at her reflection, she barely recognized herself. The dress hugged her figure in a way that was both flattering and tasteful. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel beautiful. Carla beamed when Sophia stepped out. You look incredible. And trust me, you don't need diamonds to shine. You just need to be you. Over the next few days, Carla helped Sophia prepare, practicing her composure and encouraging her to embrace the moment. They discussed everything, from how to respond to Logan's inevitable jabs to how to navigate the room without losing her confidence. Remember, Carla said, you're not going there to prove anything to them. You're going to prove something to yourself. On the evening of the gala, Sophia stood in front of her small bedroom mirror. Her mother sat nearby, watching her with teary eyes. You're strong, my dear, Amelia said softly. No matter what happens tonight, remember you're doing this for you. The taxi ride to the venue felt surreal. When Sophia stepped out, she was greeted by a scene of grandeur. Chandeliers glittering in the entrance hall, luxury cars lining the driveway, and guests clad in designer attire. For a brief moment, she felt the weight of the world pressing against her. But then, she straightened her shoulders, adjusted her dress, and stepped inside with quiet determination. The gala was a spectacle of opulence. Everywhere she turned, there were crystal decorations, expensive floral arrangements, and servers carrying trays of champagne. The guests moved through the room like they were on a stage, each interaction a performance of wealth and influence. As Sophia entered, heads turned, some in curiosity, others in quiet judgment. She felt their eyes, their whispers, but she refused to falter. From across the room, Logan spotted her. His smirk was as condescending as she had imagined. He made his way toward her, a glass of champagne in hand. Sophia, he said, his voice dripping with feigned politeness. I'm glad you could make it. I wasn't sure you'd fit in. Sophia met his gaze, her voice steady. Thank you for the invitation, Mr. Blake. It's an honor to be here and celebrate with my colleagues. Her composure caught him off guard. For a moment, his carefully crafted mask slipped, but he quickly recovered. Well, he said, his tone still patronizing. Enjoy the evening. Try not to get overwhelmed. Sophia didn't let his words penetrate her armor. She spent the evening navigating the room, listening more than speaking, observing more than reacting. Little did she know, the seeds of change were quietly taking root in the room, in the minds of those who were beginning to see her not as a secretary, but as a woman of quiet power. That night would be more than just a test of Sophia's courage. It would be the beginning of a revelation, a moment when the world would see that resilience, integrity, and inner strength are far more valuable than status or wealth. The gala was in full swing, the murmur of conversations blending with the soft strains of a live string quartet. The room, with its towering chandeliers and lavishly adorned tables, seemed to shimmer under the glow of golden light. Sophia moved through the crowd, her steps deliberate and steady. She was aware of the glances cast her way, some filled with curiosity, others laced with quiet disdain. Every whisper, every sidelong look, felt like a weight pressing against her resolve, but she carried herself with quiet dignity. Across the room, Logan Blake watched her with a calculating gaze. His tailored suit and polished shoes were as impeccable as ever, a perfect facade for the man who thrived on control and intimidation. To him, this gala was not just an event, it was a performance. Every detail, from the imported flowers to the vintage champagne, was designed to reinforce his position at the top of the company's hierarchy. And Sophia, in his eyes, was the unwitting star of a cruel subplot meant to amuse his elite audience. Sophia approached the buffet table, her hands clasped tightly around a glass of water. She caught snippets of conversations around her, discussions about investments, summer homes, and luxury brands. These weren't her conversations, her world, but she listened intently, her expression calm and composed. She had learned long ago that listening, truly listening, was often the most powerful tool in any room. Enjoying the party? A deep, calm voice pulled her from her thoughts. Turning, she found herself face to face with James Carter, one of the company's senior executives. James was known for his integrity, a rarity in a place where power often outweighed principles. His kind eyes and genuine smile immediately set him apart from the cold detachment of others. Yes, Sophia replied politely. It's quite a spectacle. James chuckled. It certainly is. Though, if you ask me, the substance often gets lost in the show. His eyes studied her for a moment, and Sophia felt an odd sense of being truly seen. You work on the executive floor, don't you? As secretary? Sophia nodded, her heart quickening slightly. She wasn't sure where this conversation was going, but James's tone carried no hint of condescension. Yes, I assist with daily operations. You must work hard, James said, his voice sincere. I've seen you around. Quiet, efficient. It's people like you who keep this place running. Sophia blinked, taken aback by his words. Accolades were rare in her world, and hearing them from someone like James felt almost surreal. She murmured her thanks, unsure of what else to say. As the evening progressed, Sophia continued to encounter individuals who, like James, seemed intrigued by her presence. Some were polite but distant, others genuinely curious. For the first time, she began to see cracks in the rigid hierarchies that had defined her workplace. Not everyone dismissed her as insignificant. Some even seemed to respect her for having the courage to attend. But Logan was not one of those people. He circled the room like a predator, ensuring his presence was felt at every corner. His attempts to belittle Sophia were subtle but unmistakable. A smirk here, a cutting remark there. Yet, with each encounter, Sophia met him with unwavering composure. She knew his game, and she refused to play it. The night reached its zenith as Logan took the stage, champagne glass in hand. He commanded the room with practiced ease, his tone self-assured as he spoke of the company's successes and his own role in driving them. The audience responded with polite applause, though not everyone was as captivated as he might have hoped. Sophia stood near the back, her presence a quiet defiance in the sea of opulence. As Logan's speech drew to a close, James stepped forward, his movements deliberate. There was a shift in the atmosphere, a subtle tension that rippled through the room. If I may, James said, his voice calm but firm, I'd like to add something. Logan hesitated, his smile faltering. He had not planned for interruptions. Of course, he said, masking his irritation. James turned to the crowd, his demeanor composed but resolute. While we celebrate our successes tonight, I think it's important to acknowledge the people who make those successes possible. Too often, their contributions go unnoticed. Tonight, I'd like to recognize one of them. The room fell silent as James's gaze landed on Sophia. Her breath caught, her cheeks flushing as every eye turned toward her. James continued, his voice steady. Sophia Carter. For years, she has worked tirelessly behind the scenes, ensuring the smooth operation of this company. Her dedication and professionalism are exemplary, and I believe it's time we give credit where it's due. The silence was deafening. Sophia felt the weight of 1,000 eyes on her, but she stood firm, her head held high. Logan's face darkened, his carefully constructed facade beginning to crack. But James wasn't finished. It's easy to overlook those who don't seek the spotlight, but their work is no less important. In fact, it's often more so. Sophia represents the quiet strength that sustains us all. Applause erupted, hesitant at first but quickly growing. Sophia's heart pounded as she saw genuine smiles and nods of approval from some of her colleagues. Even those who had previously ignored her seemed to view her in a new light. Logan, however, was seething. He attempted to regain control of the room, raising his glass to propose a toast, but before he could speak, another voice cut through the air. "If I may add," said Lily Bennett, another senior executive known for her sharp intellect and unshakable ethics. Lily's words carried a weight that silenced the room. James is absolutely right. Sophia's work, and the work of others like her, is the backbone of this company. But we must also confront an uncomfortable truth. There has been a pattern in this organization, a pattern of overlooking and undervaluing people who don't fit a certain mold. Her words were pointed, and everyone knew they were aimed at Logan. The room tensed further, the air thick with anticipation. Lily continued, her voice unwavering. "This isn't just about one person or one night. It's about recognizing the humanity and worth of every individual who contributes to our success." Sophia felt a lump rise in her throat. For years, she had endured invisibility and indignity, but tonight, people were finally seeing her. The applause that followed Lily's speech was louder, more impassioned. And for the first time, Logan looked vulnerable, his grip on the room slipping. That night, the gala became more than a celebration. It became a reckoning. As the applause continued, Sophia stood tall, knowing that this was only the beginning. The stage had been set, not for her humiliation, but for her rise. As the applause subsided, Logan stepped forward, his expression a forced mask of control, though the tightness in his jaw betrayed his growing frustration. "Thank you, James, Lily, for your thoughts," he began, his voice measured but cold. "Recognition is important, of course, but let's not forget that leadership is what steers this ship. Without a clear vision, even the hardest workers can't succeed." His words were calculated, his tone an attempt to reassert dominance. Logan's gaze flicked to Sophia, a subtle challenge lingering in his eyes. Yet, Sophia stood firm, her hands steady, her gaze unflinching. His attempt to diminish her was like a weak gust of wind against a stone wall. The energy in the room shifted. People weren't buying his rhetoric as easily as they once had. Lily wasn't finished. She stepped forward again, her heels clicking sharply against the polished floor, the sound cutting through the tension like a knife. "Leadership isn't about control, Logan. It's about trust, respect, and integrity," she said firmly. "And when leadership fails to uphold these values, the entire organization suffers." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Logan's allies exchanged uneasy glances. The room was no longer his domain. It was becoming a platform for something bigger, a challenge to his authority and the toxic culture he had cultivated. Sophia remained silent, watching the scene unfold. This wasn't her fight to lead, but it was her battle to witness. For the first time, the voices of power in the company weren't speaking over her. They were speaking for her. As the tension in the room reached its peak, Andrew Greer, the company's senior partner and a man of immense influence, rose from his seat. Andrew was known for his measured approach and fairness, and when he spoke, people listened. "Enough," he said, his voice firm but calm. The room fell silent. "Tonight is not about division," Andrew continued, his gaze sweeping across the crowd. It's about recognizing our strengths and addressing our weaknesses. And it's clear that we have both. Sophia Carter has shown remarkable resilience and dedication, qualities that should never be overlooked. If there's a lesson to be learned here, it's that we must strive for an environment where everyone feels valued. Logan's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. The applause that followed Andrew's words was thunderous, more united than before. Sophia felt a swell of emotion, relief, gratitude, and a flicker of hope. For years, she had endured in silence. Now, people were not only acknowledging her existence, but championing her worth. As the evening wore on, the energy in the room shifted further. Logan, visibly flustered, retreated to a corner with a few of his remaining allies, their whispered conversation animated. Meanwhile, Sophia found herself surrounded by colleagues who approached her with words of encouragement and, in some cases, apologies. For the first time, she felt like more than just a cog in the machine. She felt like a person. But the night wasn't over. Lily and James, emboldened by the support of the crowd, approached Andrew with a folder of documents they had quietly prepared. These documents, meticulously compiled over months, contained evidence of Logan's financial mismanagement, manipulation of company resources, and mistreatment of employees. Andrew reviewed the folder in silence, his brow furrowing as he scanned the pages. When he finished, he looked up, his expression grave. "This is serious," he said, his voice low. "We need to address this immediately." The partners convened in a private corner of the hall, their discussion quiet but intense. Meanwhile, Logan's unease grew palpable. He glanced toward the gathering of executives, his confident veneer cracking. For the first time, the man who had always seemed untouchable looked vulnerable. Finally, Andrew stepped forward, his presence commanding attention. The room fell silent once more as he spoke. After reviewing these documents, it's clear that there have been significant lapses in judgment and ethics under Logan's leadership. As a company, we must hold ourselves accountable. Effective immediately, Logan Blake will be placed on administrative leave, pending a full investigation. The announcement landed like a thunderclap. Gasps and murmurs erupted from the crowd, but Sophia stayed rooted in place, her heart pounding. She hadn't expected such a dramatic turn, but she knew this was the result of years of collective frustration finally coming to a head. Logan's face turned ashen, his eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape. He opened his mouth to protest but was cut off by Andrew's firm tone. "Logan, you will have the opportunity to defend yourself during the investigation. Until then, you are relieved of all responsibilities." Defeated, Logan stormed out of the room, his departure as abrupt as it was silent. The air in the hall felt lighter, as though a long-held tension had finally been released. Sophia stood quietly, processing everything. She hadn't come to the gala seeking revolution, yet here she was, standing amidst the rubble of an old regime. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel the weight of her own courage. She had faced the night on her terms, and though she hadn't sought it, her presence had helped spark a change she couldn't have imagined. As the gala wound down, Andrew approached Sophia. "You've shown incredible strength tonight," he said warmly. "This company needs people like you. People who understand what it means to work hard, to persevere. I'd like to discuss a more prominent role for you in the organization." Sophia was stunned. Her voice trembled as she replied, "Thank you, Mr. Greer. I never expected." "You've earned it," Andrew interrupted gently. "Let's talk more on Monday." As she left the gala that night, the city's cold air wrapping around her like a blanket, Sophia felt a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. The road ahead would not be easy, but for the first time, she felt she was walking towards something greater. She wasn't just enduring anymore. She was building. The following Monday, the atmosphere at the office was palpably different. The usual tension seemed to have eased, replaced by a cautious sense of hope. Employees who had once moved through the halls with their heads down now exchanged whispers of optimism. The shadow of Logan Blake's departure lingered, but it no longer felt oppressive. Instead, it felt like a long-awaited storm had passed, leaving the air fresh and full of possibility. Sophia entered the office that morning with her usual quiet composure, but this time, she noticed something different. Colleagues who had once ignored her now greeted her with nods or soft smiles. Carla, her ever-supportive friend, was waiting at her desk, her grin wide and triumphant. "You've done it, Sophia," Carla said, leaning in conspiratorially. "The whole office is talking about how you stood your ground at the gala. You've inspired people." Sophia shook her head modestly. "It wasn't just me. James, Lily, and Andrew. They're the ones who brought the truth to light." "True," Carla admitted, "but you were the spark. Without you, none of this would have happened." Before Sophia could reply, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Andrew's assistant, asking her to meet with him in his office. Her heart fluttered with nerves as she made her way to the executive floor. This was uncharted territory for her, a place she had always viewed as inaccessible. Andrew greeted her warmly, gesturing for her to take a seat. "Sophia, thank you for coming," he began. "As I mentioned at the gala, this company needs people like you. People with integrity, resilience, and a deep understanding of the challenges faced by our team." Sophia nodded, unsure of where this was heading. Andrew continued, "We've decided to restructure the leadership team. It's clear that the old ways weren't working. We want to create a culture of inclusion and respect, and I believe you can play a key role in this transformation." Her breath caught. "What exactly are you suggesting, Mr. Greer?" "We'd like to promote you to a managerial role overseeing employee relations," Andrew said. "Your primary focus would be to ensure that every employee feels valued and supported. This isn't just a title, Sophia. It's a chance to change the culture from within." The weight of his words settled on her. Sophia had never imagined herself in a position of power, but the idea of being able to make a tangible difference was deeply compelling. "I'm honored," she said softly. "I'll do everything I can to help." "I have no doubt," Andrew replied, his smile genuine. "Let's get started." Sophia's promotion sent ripples through the company. Some employees celebrated the decision, viewing it as a long-overdue step toward fairness. Others, particularly those who had benefited from the old hierarchy, were skeptical or outright dismissive. Sophia was aware of the challenges she faced, but she was determined to prove herself not through force, but through action. Her first initiative was to establish a listening tour. For weeks, she met with employees at every level of the organization, from junior assistants to senior executives. She wanted to hear their stories, their struggles, their frustrations, their hopes for the future. Carla often accompanied her, taking notes and offering quiet support. One of the most impactful meetings was with a group of custodial staff. These were the people who worked tirelessly behind the scenes, ensuring the office was clean and functional. Yet, their contributions had always been taken for granted. Sophia listened intently as they spoke of long hours, low wages, and a lack of recognition. "We just want to be seen," one woman said, her voice trembling. "To know that what we do matters." Sophia felt a pang of empathy. She knew that feeling all too well. "You do matter," she said firmly. "And I promise things will change." She didn't just make promises, she acted. Within weeks, Sophia introduced a recognition program that highlighted the contributions of every department, including those that had previously been overlooked. Quarterly awards were given out, not just to executives and managers, but to custodians, administrative assistants, and other unsung heroes. Sophia also worked with Lily and James to overhaul the company's policies on diversity and inclusion. Together, they implemented mentorship programs, professional development opportunities, and transparent promotion processes. The changes were slow, but they were real, and employees began to feel a renewed sense of pride in their work. However, not everyone was on board. Some senior executives resisted the changes, viewing them as unnecessary disruptions. Sophia faced subtle pushback. Meetings she wasn't invited to, decisions made without her input. But she met every obstacle with unwavering resolve, supported by Andrew's backing and the growing trust of her colleagues. One day, during a particularly heated meeting, one executive openly challenged her. "This isn't how we've done things before," he said, his tone dripping with disdain. "Why fix something that wasn't broken?" Sophia met his gaze steadily. "It was broken," she said calmly. "We just didn't want to see it. Change isn't easy, but it's necessary. If we want to build a company that thrives, We have to value everyone who contributes to it. Her words silenced the room. Slowly, one by one, her detractors began to relent. They didn't fully agree with her yet, but they couldn't deny the impact her initiatives were having on morale and productivity. As the months passed, the company began to transform. The once cold halls were now filled with a sense of collaboration and mutual respect. Employees who had once felt invisible were now finding their voices. And through it all, Sophia remained at the heart of the change, a steady, guiding force who led not with authority, but with empathy and integrity. Sophia's journey was far from over, but she was no longer alone. Together with a growing team of allies, she was building something new, a culture where everyone, no matter their title or background, had the chance to succeed. Sophia's steady rise through the company was accompanied by a shift in its very foundation. The cold, hierarchical culture was giving way to a more inclusive, collaborative environment. Employees from all levels of the organization felt this change, and while some were hesitant, many embraced it with open arms. One of Sophia's first major projects in her new role was the development of a company-wide mentorship program. She understood that many employees, like her former self, lacked access to the guidance and connections necessary for growth. With James and Lily's help, the program paired senior employees with junior staff, creating opportunities for skills transfer, career guidance, and professional development. The mentorship program quickly became a resounding success. Employees who had felt stuck in their roles were now thriving under the guidance of experienced mentors. Sophia herself participated, mentoring a young administrative assistant named Carlane, who reminded her of her own struggles. "You've already got the strength," Sophia told Carlane during one of their sessions. "Now it's about showing others what you're capable of." Sophia also championed employee wellness initiatives, inspired by her years of balancing her demanding job with the care of her ailing mother. She introduced flexible working hours, mental health resources, and a financial support fund for employees facing hardships. These changes didn't just improve morale, they built trust. Workers began to feel valued, not just for their contributions, but for who they were as individuals. One day, a janitor named Miguel approached Sophia after a town hall meeting. His voice trembled with emotion as he said, "Thank you, Ms. Carter. My son is in the hospital, and the financial support program has been a lifesaver for my family." His gratitude brought tears to Sophia's eyes. Moments like this affirmed her belief that leadership was about serving others, not commanding them. Despite her successes, Sophia faced significant resistance from a small faction of senior executives who were loyal to Logan Blake's old ways. These individuals were used to operating in a system that valued connections and status over merit. They viewed Sophia's initiatives as disruptive and unnecessary, and they didn't shy away from voicing their opinions. In one particularly contentious meeting, an executive named Gregory remarked, "These changes are costing us more than they're worth. The company was profitable before, and we should focus on maintaining that, not playing social worker." Sophia remained calm, though her heart pounded. "Profitability isn't sustainable without a strong foundation," she replied firmly. "When employees feel valued, they work harder, stay longer, and bring their best ideas to the table. Investing in people isn't a cost, it's a strategy." Andrew Greer, who had been silent during the exchange, nodded in agreement. Sophia's right. The data already shows increased productivity and retention since these initiatives began. We're building something bigger than short-term profits. We're creating a legacy. Gregory fell silent, but Sophia knew the battle for hearts and minds wasn't over. Still, she drew strength from the growing support of employees and allies like Andrew, James, and Lily. Months turned into a year, and Sophia's vision began to take root. The company, once known for its cutthroat culture, was becoming a leader in ethical business practices. Industry publications began to take notice, praising the firm for its innovative approach to employee engagement and leadership. Sophia's name became synonymous with this transformation. Invitations poured in for her to speak at conferences and panels, sharing her journey from overlooked secretary to influential leader. Though public speaking was outside her comfort zone, Sophia accepted the challenge. Her story resonated with audiences, inspiring others to reimagine what leadership could look like. In one particularly memorable speech at a national business summit, Sophia addressed a room full of executives and entrepreneurs. For years, I believed my value was tied to my title, she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. But true value comes from within. It's about how you treat people, how you uplift others, and how you lead with integrity. Success isn't about stepping on others to climb higher. It's about building a ladder for everyone. The audience erupted in applause. Many approached her afterward, sharing how her words had challenged their own perspectives on leadership. Back at the company, Sophia's efforts continued to bear fruit. The mentorship program expanded, with more employees participating than ever before. The financial support fund grew, thanks to contributions from senior executives who had seen its impact firsthand. Collaboration flourished across departments, and employees of all levels began to feel a renewed sense of purpose. But perhaps the most significant change was the way people treated one another. The once stiff, transactional relationships in the office had been replaced with genuine camaraderie and mutual respect. Sophia often walked through the halls, smiling as she saw colleagues laughing together, brainstorming ideas, or lending a hand to someone in need. Carla, Sophia's steadfast friend, had also flourished in this new environment. With Sophia's encouragement, she had taken on a leadership role of her own, overseeing the company's community outreach initiatives. Together, they launched a series of volunteer events, including career workshops for underserved youth and fundraising drives for local charities. These efforts further solidified the company's reputation as a force for good. One afternoon, as Sophia stood by the large window in her office, gazing out at the city below, Andrew entered. "You've done something remarkable here," he said, his tone warm and reflective. "This company is unrecognizable from what it was 2 years ago." Sophia smiled, though her expression was tinged with humility. "It wasn't just me," she replied. "It was everyone. The employees who believed in the changes, the mentors who gave their time, the leaders like you who supported me. This is all of ours." Andrew nodded. "Even so, it takes someone with vision and courage to light the way. You've done that, Sophia." As Andrew left, Sophia sat at her desk and reflected on her journey. She thought of the frightened, overwhelmed woman who had walked into the gala that cold winter night, unsure of her place in the world. That woman had faced countless challenges, but she had never let them break her. Instead, she had transformed them into stepping stones for something greater. Sophia wasn't just a leader now. She was a symbol of what was possible when someone chose to rise above adversity, to act with compassion and conviction, and to believe in the power of change. She knew her work wasn't done, but she also knew that her legacy would endure, not just in the company she had helped reshape, but in the lives of everyone she had touched. Sophia's journey as a leader didn't stop with the internal transformation of the company. She knew that true progress extended beyond office walls. Inspired by her own experiences and struggles, she spearheaded initiatives to connect the company with the broader community, ensuring that the values of empathy and inclusion became part of its identity. One of her most ambitious projects was the launch of a community enrichment program. This initiative focused on 3 key areas: education, mentorship, and social support. Under Sophia's guidance, the company partnered with local schools to offer scholarships and internships to underprivileged students. Employees volunteered their time to mentor young people, sharing their expertise in finance, marketing, and technology. The company also established a fund to assist families in crisis, providing financial aid, groceries, and housing support. Carla took the lead in organizing these efforts, her energy and compassion driving the program's success. "You've turned this company into something more than a workplace, Sophia," Carla said one afternoon. "It feels like a family now. A real one." Sophia smiled. "That's the goal," she said. "We spend so much of our lives at work. It should be a place where people feel seen and supported, where they can grow and give back." The program had ripple effects within the company. Employees who participated in the outreach efforts felt a renewed sense of purpose and pride in their work. Many began to see their colleagues in a new light, not just as co-workers but as allies and friends. The sense of unity and shared mission that Sophia had cultivated grew stronger with every project. As the months passed, the company's reputation soared. Industry leaders praised its innovative approach to business, and it became a sought-after place to work. More importantly, it became a company where people thrived, not just professionally but personally. 2 years after the pivotal gala that had changed everything, the company hosted its annual recognition event, now reimagined as a celebration of unity and achievement. The once exclusive affair had transformed into an inclusive gathering where every employee, regardless of their position, was honored for their contributions. Sophia stood at the front of the hall, the warm glow of chandeliers casting light on the faces of her colleagues. The atmosphere was vibrant, filled with laughter and genuine connection. She looked out at the crowd, her heart swelling with pride. Andrew approached the podium to address the room. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we celebrate more than just another successful year. We celebrate the transformation of our company into a beacon of integrity, inclusion, and innovation. And none of this would have been possible without the leadership and vision of Sophia Carter. The applause was deafening as Andrew gestured for Sophia to join him. She stepped up, humbled and slightly overwhelmed. Taking a deep breath, she began to speak. "I stand here tonight not as a leader, but as one of you," she said, her voice steady. "This company's success isn't mine alone. It belongs to all of us. To the janitors who keep our spaces clean, the assistants who manage the details, the executives who guide strategy, and everyone in between. We've built something remarkable together, and I am endlessly proud of what we've achieved." She paused, her gaze sweeping the room. "But this isn't the end of our journey. There's still work to do, challenges to face, and growth to achieve. Let's continue to build a culture where every voice is heard, every effort is valued, and every person feels they belong." The room erupted in applause once more, but Sophia's thoughts drifted to the road ahead. She knew that change was a constant process, requiring vigilance and care. But she also knew she wasn't alone. She had an army of dedicated colleagues, friends, and mentors by her side. As the night came to a close, Sophia found herself standing by the large window overlooking the city. Carla joined her, holding 2 glasses of sparkling cider. "To you, Sophia," Carla said, raising her glass, "for being the heart of all this." Sophia smiled, clinking her glass against Carla's. "To us," she corrected, "for proving that even in the coldest winters, we can plant the seeds of something beautiful." Together, they sipped their drinks, the glittering city lights a reminder of the possibilities that lay ahead. Sophia knew her story wasn't just hers. It was a testament to the power of perseverance, the value of integrity, and the strength that comes from standing together. And as the company moved forward, her legacy would endure in every decision made, every life touched, and every dream realized.